Proverbs 18:17. The one who states his case first seems right until another comes and examines him. So now Joni is examining what Suzy said.
Gather around with you today. You're a TV personality all over the world. You know, you're known for bringing news to the world, making people aware of issues that they need to know that can make their life a better life. You've been amazing at that through the years. And we know there's stuff out there circulating and accusations that are coming from people that don't even know who you are, don't know you. And we, as your friends sitting here today, we have worked with you every day for years. We know you better than anybody out there that feels like they have the right to do what they're doing. So the girls and I, we just wanted to sit with you today, and we wanted to ask you some of those questions that people are wanting answers. And so we just wanted to have our coffee and just ask you those questions.
Okay.
Okay. All right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know, like Cindy said, there are those allegations out there from people who really don't know much about what's going on. One of the questions is, when did you hear about the alleged abuse?
My first knowledge of any abuse was in November of 2020. And Suzy called me and said there had been an incident at my granddaughter's preschool. And she told me that something had happened where a little boy touched her and her friend. And so she called me and asked me, would I go to the school with her? And I said, absolutely. So I went with her to the school. We reported it to the school. And of course, you know, I was there to encourage, and as I would for any child, but especially my granddaughter.
Of course, yes.
And so that was the incident that happened. And yet, you know, what's being written is just taken out of context. That was the incident that happened in 2020, and I was there. And Suzy actually called me to go there.
Okay, so the word about you covering up, there's no truth to that.
You know, when I started hearing that, I thought to myself, what am I covering up? I've covered up nothing.
Right.
And so I never covered up anything. Now, there was another incident written about that was an incident that happened at our family retreat. This was in 2021.
She said that Suzy called her to tell her what had transpired at the school, if she could go with, if Joni could go to school with Suzy. Either way, Joni went to school with Suzy to go and investigate this incident. But what was reported does not match with what Joni is saying. So these are two contradictory statements, okay? Joni says she went to school. Suzy never said anything of Joni, with Joni going with her. So either both of them are lying or one of them is lying. They can't be both telling the truth. So we have Suzy over here. Let's hear her exactly what she said regarding this situation, okay?
My life. I can't even explain the things that I felt. In that moment, I went to my confidant, the person I really, truly, with my whole heart trusted. That was another question. Why did you go there? It was about 5:30 in the evening. Jonathan hadn't come home from work, and I was ready to get in the car and go to the police. But this woman I really trusted said, no, we're going to talk to the teachers. When I talked to my child that day, when she told me...
Well, this woman, it's my mom. You can just say the name.
I know. It's still hard. It is still hard. It's easy to talk to a journalist as a one-on-one person, but going public, it genuinely hurts. These are people that we love. These are not people we're angry at or hate. Okay, sorry. I'm trying not to get emotional. So, I asked my child. I have no practice with this. I don't know what leading questions are or not. I assumed it was the school. Her world was so small. Home, school, and we'd take her to Daystar. So I assumed it was a school. I asked her, is it at school? she was nervous and just nodding. I found out since, counselors have explained that behavior to me now, and it all adds up. It all makes sense.
Okay, so what have we learned so far? According to Suzy, she said that first of all, she didn't want to mention, okay? She didn't want to call Joni, that it was Joni, okay? And then she said that I think it was the husband. The husband actually just said, you know what? Why don't you just say it, that it was Joni? That's what happened, right? So why is it that Suzy cannot just say that it was Joni? Okay? But Jonathan revealed that it was Joni. Suzy did not say that she called Joni and then asked Joni to go with her to school to find out. According to Suzy, she said that she just assumed that this was happening at the school. Now, does that match the information that Suzy herself put out? Suzy Lamb noticed that her daughter had been itching her pee pads. It concerned her, so she started probing and asking questions. Her daughter reported that a boy at school had put his hand up her dress. So, okay, Rachel can be making this up, but this is what we have here. Shortly after, Suzy took her daughter to be examined by a pediatrician who found no signs of any damage to her, okay? On November 6th, okay, Dr. Robert says, little, I call her, little is good. No damage, no scarring, and no TI or infection. Aunt Rachel, so what does he think then? Why is she in pain? It's constipation because of dairy, and that's putting pressure on her bladder. So gotta cut out dairy and use oat milk. Okay? Aunt Rachel, we are a dairy-free house because of whosoever. It's pretty easy. Are you going to let her go back to school? Aunt Rachel is asking. Suzy responds, oh yeah, we just cut out Andy's ice cream. So this is the text that transpired between Suzy and Rachel, okay? And Rachel adds, it's clear, Suzy, her own text, that her daughter identified who touched her, quote unquote, the boy, because Suzy said it was fine for her to return to school since the boy was no longer there. Suzy never said anything at the time about a boy taller than daddy, okay? And then later on, Suzy shared in this text message that she had discovered the cause of her daughter itching her private pee because she had developed eczema. So these are the pictures, okay? Finally, I figured out the cause of her itching her private. Eczema, poor thing, same thing on her neck, arms, and down there. All right, but the key thing is Suzy said she was going to send back the baby, the little, back to school because the boy was no longer there at the school. When Suzy brought this story up into the public, she never said anything concerning about the boy. She never said anything that Joni went with her to go and investigate at the school. And the text messages that transpired in November between Rachel and Suzy are saying something else that's different.
In this house together, and again, we do that once a year. And my two older grandchildren were staying in an upstairs bedroom. And it was a long room, and there was a bunk bed on one side, and there was another bunk bed on the other side. And so my grandson was talking about that he had the city view, and he was saying his sister had the beach view.
Okay.
And so one afternoon, he was talking about that, and who they call Pete was in the room, holding a 1-year-old baby boy, okay? And so Pete says, oh, so you've got the city view, and everybody was talking about, well, I'd rather have the beach view, and my grandson saying, no, I like the city view. And Pete said, well, I like the city view too. And so he said, I want to see your city view. So they went up the stairs.
The grandson and Pete, and Pete had the baby.
The grandson Pete, and the baby. Now, all those details have been left out.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they went up the steps, and again, I was there. I heard this whole conversation. And around the same time, or maybe just a few minutes after, I don't know exactly when, but my granddaughter went up to the room and went over to her side while Pete and the baby and my grandson were looking out the window at the city view.
Okay.
And she proceeded to put her bathing suit on. Well, about the time she started to put it on, Jonathan comes running up the stairs
Her dad.
and says, "What are you doing in here while she's changing? You know, what are you doing? You know?" And Pete was like, "Well, I'm sorry. I don't even know if he actually saw anything."
Because he had his back to her.
Because he was holding the baby and the 8-year-old was there. So he said, "I'm so sorry, and left." But there had been some very peculiar things that have happened at this particular trip. I remember when we were.
Okay, so now we are at the incident that took place at the beach. Okay, when this story was reported, it was reported that the little girl, Suzy asked her daughter to go and change into a bathing suit. So the daughter went to go change into the bathing suit. And then Suzy saw that Pete was following the little girl. And then the little girl was in the room changing, and Pete was in the room. And then Jonathan barged into the room, walked in and found Pete there. They never explained to say that the little girl's brother was in the room, Pete was in the room, and Pete was holding a 1-year-old. This is a very important information, because if you're given an impression that Pete was exclusively alone in the bedroom with a 5-year-old who is changing into a bathing suit, that leaves a very bad picture. Because if something happened in that room, right? It's just Uncle Pete and a 5-year-old. But now when you say that, no, the brother was also in the room, it changes the picture. Because if something happened in the room, the brother would have said something. There isn't any information that, the brother saw something or said something. That's not there, okay? And as you know, whatever the most this Pete can be, how can it be that, okay, he has a 1-year-old baby, okay, fine, maybe he left the baby on the floor, okay, but the little girl's brother is in the room, and he's able to talk. They went in there, he's having a conversation with his uncle, so clearly he's able to speak. And not only that, when Jonathan barged into the room, nothing happened in the room. The only thing that's there, the little girl was changing to put on a bathing suit, okay? Just because the little girl was in the room, is a 5-year-old. That's your uncle, that's your niece. Whether you like the picture or not, that's not SA abuse. You might not have liked the girl to be in the room, but the other thing they're missing out, Uncle Pete was already in the room. Uncle Pete was already in the room with the nephew and with his child. So the little girl is the one who entered the room while Uncle Pete was already in the room. Now you can make an argument like, okay, you know what? When Uncle Pete saw that the little girl is coming in to change, Uncle Pete should have excused himself, leave the room. Okay, you can make that argument. But the way this story was presented was like it was Uncle Pete and the little girl exclusively in the room alone. But if you add in no, that's not how all this went down. There were other people in the. There was a brother in the room. There was a nephew, a niece that were also in the room. So you have a total of 3 individuals in the room. Fine, the 1-year-old doesn't know, right? But at least the brother was there. Uncle Pete was there. That information is definitely crucial. After Daystar.Joni addressed the accusation made against her by Jury Royce and others, the Royce report made a very critical correction to their original article that casts doubt on everything. Why is this correction buried at the end of the article? #Daystar. So the Royce report has made a correction to what they reported. And this is the correction they put out, right? Correction. Our initial report because it's it's important. If there is a correction needs to be made, the correction has to be made. Okay. So my question is this: did Jonathan and Suzy explain the layout of the room to Judy when they were telling her the story, or did Judy? Because I'm sure she has a whole bunch of information. I don't expect her to put everything in an article, okay? You only put, whatever you think that is relevant.
The grocery store, all the family was there because when we go, we always go to the grocery store and get food for breakfast and that kind of thing. And I remember Suzy was standing in line and she began to murmur under her breath and start talking about a man that was behind her. And she was getting angrier and angrier, and we were like, what's going on? And she said, he was looking at me, in the store. And the man is like on his phone, not knowing what in the world she's saying or doing. We were just trying to calm her down. So it was just a weird dynamic that was going on with her from the beginning.
Right.
I know that you called me from Florida and told me that it was a tough time as a family. And I know that when families get together like that, a lot of times there are times that you disagree about things or things happen.
Well, what happened was Marcus was alive, and so we just met together as a family. He talked to everyone, and clearly nothing happened.
Yeah. Speaking of Pastor Marcus, first I want to say thanks for the opportunity. You've always been easy to talk to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just
very transparent.
Very transparent. And so I want to ask you, because Suzy said that you and Pastor Marcus covered it up. Did you cover it up?
Marcus isn't here, but I will just say absolutely a lie. I never covered up anything. I wouldn't cover up anything. Marcus didn't cover up anything. And so again, this is a narrative that was written by some low-level blogger who knows nothing, never heard the other side of the story, and is doing nothing but trying to destroy my family.
Sensationalize.
Yeah, that's what she does.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you shared this, because I don't know why somebody would not have asked that question. Was there anybody else in the bedroom?
Right.
Besides,
all of that was left out.
all of it.
Holding a baby.
That would have been to me.
Yes.
If you're investigating something or you're going to try to find something,
Right.
well, it's a family retreat. So,
Right.
Well, the crazy part is that eventually we worked through that misunderstanding, and Jonathan and Suzy ended up apologizing. And we prayed together. I mean, and it was a done deal.
Right.
And so the timing of later this coming out or being pulled up again out of the ashes when there's no validity to it just blew my mind. I'm like, what in the world?
Well, but did you continue to do things as a family with Jonathan and Suzy and their family?
Oh, absolutely. Now, this is the thing. So this was 2021, and Marcus passed away and was graduated to heaven in November of 2021. So when 2022 rolled around, the question was, are we going to do our family retreat? When the kids asked me about it, I said, I just don't know if I'm up for it, guys. And so, but we all got together and they just said, no, Mom, we really want to do this. So I said yes. We went, Jonathan, Suzy, their kids, and the other couple, their kid. And when we got to the house, everybody will pick their room, and there were bunk beds that were outside Pete's room. And Jonathan and Suzy say, "Oh, well, the kids can sleep here." So there was no thought of anything that there would be any issue. And Pete actually came to me and said, "This is uncomfortable for me,"
because of what happened.
Because he didn't want that to be repeated.
Yes.
Exactly.
And so I said, "Well, no, we don't need to put the kids here." So I put them on the same floor with their parents. Everything was great. Nothing happened. And again, you think this issue is settled. That's what happened.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, so that incident, what Joni is saying, in 2022, all the families, Jonathan, Suzy, and their children, including Pete's family and the children, they went on vacation. The incident at the beach house happened in 2020, right? 2020 or 2021. However, so if Jonathan and Suzy, right, were under impression that this Pete is a monster, he's not good, why would you want your children to sleep outside Pete's bedroom? Question one. Question two, why would you go on vacation with Pete, the same one that you find in the bedroom with your own child changing in a swimsuit? Because this Pete is a monster. So why are you going on vacation with Pete? This is in 2022. Number three, I don't know people in the chats. Suzy called Joni to tell Joni what happened at the school. And Joni went to school with Suzy to go sort this issue out. Suzy never said that she went to school with Joni. She never said anything about Joni going to school. So either you believe what Joni is saying or you believe what Suzy is saying. So this is what I'm saying. Either Joni is lying or Suzy is lying, but both of them cannot be telling the truth. Okay? If Joni went to school with Suzy, why did Suzy leave that information out? Because at this point, Joni, she's a Jezebel, she's a monster, right? This is an evil grandmother who doesn't care about her granddaughter. So why did she go to the school? The school has, it's a boys and girls school. I take it this is a private school. If the school is only, they were playing in the playground, right? So she investigated, there was no male teacher at the school. But they are little boys and girls. So it was a boy who touched the little girl at the school. At least this is according to Joni. Okay, so if you grant that the school has no boys in the school, so is it only little girls' school? I doubt it. I very much doubt it. So yeah, she could be right. Like, okay, her daughter only goes, it's either Daystar or it's at the school. So whatever happened to the little girl, that is not in dispute. Something happened to this little girl. Either it happened at the school or it happened at, allegedly, it happened at the Daystar. But the incident in 2021 on vacation, nothing happened. The kid went into the room to change. The brother was in the room, okay? The father immediately came in the scene in the room. So a kid changing for a swimsuit while the uncle is in the room, that is not SA. Whatever you want to make of the situation, that's not it. So the question is, where is the incident where you have Pete implicated with the little one? Because nothing happened at the beach house. Okay, so if you're calling a kid changing in a swimsuit while the uncle is in the room, if you're calling that SA, okay, by no means. But that's not SA if you ask me. So now, they're asking like, okay, in 2022, these people went on vacation, okay? So let's hear some more what Joni is saying. Okay, so it doesn't, whatever Joni is saying, you just have to examine with what Suzy is saying. cross-examine those things and see, you know what I'm saying? So, of course, Suzy is going to say things to favor her cause and the situation. Joni is going to say things to favor her cause and to favor her own situation. We are under no obligation to believe either one of them. We are under obligation to ascertain the truth to the best of our ability as we can. We were not there. We don't know what the dynamics are as far as their family is concerned. So we are just here with the information that they've put out in public. But what is not in dispute is Uncle Pete was not by himself in the room. It was presented to the public that Uncle Pete was by himself in the room. That information is important. So whatever we think of Pete or whatever John, we don't want to crucify somebody with something that does not match the evidence that's on the ground.
After the fact, after the incident. So,
Yeah, the one incident that happened was 2020 with her preschool.
Yeah.
And somehow it has evolved into blaming a family member. Because, people say, well, how can you protect a family member over? I would never protect anyone over my granddaughter.
You would not.
I mean, that is insane, for people to say, oh, she's so terrible. I would never put the ministry before family. I never have done that.
You and Marcus never did. And
So those are just misconceptions, again, by the low-level blogger who does nothing but be used in a way that is trying to hurt the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to know the
Yes,
truth.
Yeah.
absolutely. We know who the enemy is.
Yeah, and one of the other issues that's out there among debate is the marriage between you and Doug after Marcus passed away.